Welcome. In a previous video I went over my initial configuration of a Raspberry Pi on the command. I'll put a link in the description of that video and my Raspberry Pi playlist. In this video I'm going to go over doing the same thing using the graphical interface. So I'm using the Raspbian Full Edition, which has the GUI and all the software installed on it. So if you find this video helpful, I'll put a link in the description to some Raspberry Pis and the SD card I'm using and things like that on Amazon, and if you use that link it helps me out a little bit and doesn't cost you anything extra. So we should have this booted up here in just a moment. Okay, so it says welcome to the Raspberry Pi desktop. I'm going to go ahead and hit cancel here because some people watching this video may have just clicked cancel on this and then realize they have to go back. So when you're on the desktop like this, the first thing we want to do is click on the upper left and go down here to Preferences and then click on Raspberry Pi Configuration. Next, for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to click on Set Resolution, and I'm going to change that to 720p by 60. So it'll be 1280 by 720, 60. I'll hit OK. And now it'll reboot. Okay, so it's rebooted. But most people are just going to want to leave that at the 1080p default if they're using a 1080p monitor. So now I'm going to go in the upper left hand again. I'll click on Preferences and click on Raspberry Pi Configuration. And this has a lot of the same configurations as the text-based utility. So the first thing here, you have Change Password. So we can click on that. We can enter our new password. And this doesn't really check the strength of your password. I just use password for my password here. So, and then you can change the host name here, so I'll type Pi GUI, and then it says boot to desktop or CLI, and I'm going to choose desktop. If you're going to use CLI, it's probably best to use the Raspbian Lite edition because it has less software installed, and it's a lighter weight distribution. So we have auto login installed, and that's set to current user. So if you want to require a password when you log in, you want to uncheck that. Next we have network at boot. So if we click this, it'll wait for a network before it boots the system. We have splash screen for enabled and disabled, so I'll leave that to enabled. We have underscan enabled. I'm going to set that to disabled. What that does is that puts black bars around the edge of your monitor, and that could be useful if you're using TV as your monitor. So most people are probably going to want that disabled if you're using an HDMI display. And then pixel doubling will make everything twice as big, and it will use 4 pixels to represent every 1 pixel. So I'll leave that disabled. Next I'll click on Interfaces, and this has different interfaces like the Pi camera, SSH. I like to enable SSH so I can remote into my machine. And then it has VNC, which is a remote screen viewer. I'll leave that disabled. It has SPI, I2C, serial port, serial console, one wire, and remote GPIO. So you can turn those on if you need them, but otherwise I'll leave them disabled except for SSH. Performance will allow you to overclock it if you have like a Raspberry Pi 1 or 2. GPU memory allows you to set the amount of memory your GPU is using. Right now it's set to 76. I think it looks like there's specific ones that'll let it set you to, so I can go 60, 68. I'll leave that as default at 76. And then the last tab here is localization. So we can click on Set Locale. And my language is English, but my country is United States. So I'll scroll down here to US. And the character set I'm going to use is UTF-8. I'll hit OK. It's going to set the locale. This can take a little while. Next I'll click on Set Time Zone. I'm going to choose my area, which is, let's see, US. And location I'll choose Central. So there's different ways you can set this. I think I could set it to Central Time Zone somewhere around here maybe. Like I could set America here, and then I can click on this and choose Chicago. That's what I did in my last video. So I'll hit OK there. We've set the time zone. And then the keyboard, we can click Set Keyboard. And I'm using a generic 105 key PC International keyboard. I'll leave that. And the layout I'll choose is US English. And then the variant I want is English US, or it's English US for both. I'll hit OK. And then next we have Set Wi-Fi Country. So here you set the country you're in, and that can determine what frequencies you use for Wi-Fi. So I'll go down here to US. Okay, United States, and I'll hit OK. And then I'll hit OK down here. And it says, the changes you made require the Raspberry Pi to reboot to take effect. Would you like to reboot now? And I'm just going to say no, but typically I would say yes. Okay, so that's the basic setup that I do when I get a new graphical interface. Before I do anything, I'll usually set that up. You can also go up to the upper right here. I have it on Ethernet now, but if you click here, you can choose a Wi-Fi access point and set up Wi-Fi if you have Wi-Fi enabled on your machine. So after I configure it, the last thing I do is I update all the software. So if you click on the upper left here and go down to Preferences, you can click Add Remove Software. And I didn't find this super intuitive, but what you want to do is go over here and click Options, and then click Check for Updates. And this will search for updates on the system. And it says there are no updates available for your computer at this time. So I'll hit OK. And you could also install other software here. So that's my setup procedure for a Raspberry Pi Raspbian. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate it if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.